I used to cycle around the naval base area where the British were. Of course, the British were always very sticky about who's going in, who's going out. But we knew all the side gates, the illegal side gates, we can just go in. So I used to bring my bicycle to school, and from there after school, just go inside the side gate, and I'll cycle around the naval base. Cycling around naval base was very interesting because compared to Sembawang, when you're outside, the atmosphere, and when you go inside, you think you're in a totally different world. Everything was very well maintained. The roads were neat. There's no rubbish, nothing, all clean and very nice. You feel like you're in a different country altogether. I enjoyed that. Used to go cycling there practically every day. Used to see all the houses where the British were staying. I could also see the dockyard where the British naval ships come in berth. So there's a hill there. I think the hill is still there. But I think now, for security reasons, it's blocked off. You can't see inside. But I had a good fortune to go inside the dockyard a few months ago. The dockyard is still there, and many people don't know. There's still ships coming in there, naval ships coming in there, and they come here. Like one ship I saw was amazed. That huge ships come down there for replenishment. This ship takes on fuel, loads fuel, goes out to sea, and serves the aircraft carriers out of the South China Sea. What is interesting in these areas was a lot of the roads were named by the British. So I think you still have King's Road, King Street, Queen Street, in all this naval base. Then you got Holland Drive in Sembawang in town. And, all the names that the British are still around existing.
We still have Canberra Road today, right? But some of the others, like Delhi Road, is gone.
Yeah, that's right. So number of the roads.
Kowloon Road also. Remember Kowloon Road?
Yeah, that's right.
Madras Road.
Madras Road, yeah.
That's where all the Asian base workers lived, right? The quarters were there.
Yeah, there were a lot of British quarters there. Those houses were actually very nice, big houses. The only thing is, those houses were shared accommodations, which means you have a house, and then the kitchen is a common kitchen. You need to walk down a staircase, and the cooking is done in a separate place. I used to see my classmates, a lot of them, parents were working in a naval base, so they were living there. So I used to go there and hang around with them. But there was also one or two places where you got cinemas. You got naval base cinema. Those were more British movies, catering mainly for the British persons who were staying there. We couldn't afford to pay that cinema ticket, so we used to go to other cinemas nearer. I can't remember the name of the cinemas, but they were showing local movies, either Indian movies or Chinese movies, but more Indian movies than anything else. Because a lot of workers there were all for Indians. I think in the years to come, when the British left, a lot of these workers were given citizenship, residence in the UK. So I think a lot of them took it up. Some of them did not take it up. I don't know whether my father was maybe also. I cannot remember that.
I was the baby boomer, born in 1946, specifically in Block 14, Room 12, Kowloon Road, HM Naval Base.
Can you just maybe explain what do you mean by Room 12? There were different rooms.
In a block, it's a row of quarters, living quarters, and it's divided into rooms. They call it, there are 2 rooms to a unit, 12 units, put it that way, 12 units, 2 rooms to a unit for each family, regardless of your size of the family. And each room size, my best recollection and estimate would be about 12 feet square or 4 meters square, and about 10 foot high, quite a spacious room, actually, room space. There are 2 such similar size room, plus a little veranda. The kitchen, cooking area, the bathroom and toilet are separate from where we are. It's separated just by us. I can't even describe how to call it. It's not a passage or a path. It is built in such a way the kitchen and all that is in one row, facing the living quarters on the opposite. If you look at the blocks, which I've sent you some photo of, you could see how those living quarters look like.
Why don't we do that, right? Give me a minute. Let me share the screen.
There you can see Kowloon Road.
Yep.
And my block would be the 3rd block on the right.
On
Nearer
the
the
right
road.
here.
Near the
1,
road.
2,
Nearer
3.
the road.
This one?
That's the one. That's the one. That's block 14.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. I think the map is short of another block. Because next to my block was 15, 18, before the angle block, which is block 19. On the map, I might want to pull myself back to a block below to be 14.
Below, you mean like here?
No, just
Here.
on the same, yeah. I will count that as 14 because the next will be 15, 18, and then 19, yeah.
That's strange. Why is there a missing block? So you say
There's a missing
there's
block,
a block
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the block next to, which seems to start, is block 11, was block 11. So we have in that row 11, 14, 15, 18, and 19. And below would be 12, 13, 16, and 17.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot for that. I just want to pull out the map a little bit so that we can see the
Enlarge
entirety.
it a little bit, yeah.
Right. We won't be able to see the details, but just to give you a sense of how big this was, right? So how do you get into the naval base? You get it from the south here, right, at the bottom.
Yes, that's the gate called Canberra Gate on the one end from Sembawang, or over to the other side will be the Sembawang Gate. From the northwest end, there's another gate from Marsiling coming in, and that is called the Rotterdam Gate.
Okay, but hold on. There is another gate here, right? Canberra Road up. There's a main gate inside the, I guess,
that's the dockyard, leading to the dockyard
area, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the dockyard there's a King George the 6th dock here.
Dry dock, yeah.
Yeah.
They call it the graving dock, yeah.
Okay. All still fresh in your memory.
Very much so, yes.
And tell us then, these are all the British servicemen
living areas, yeah.
These are not barracks though, right?
No. These are all the black and white bungalows.
These are all the bungalows for the officers lah.
And the flats, yeah. And they also have 6 unit flats.
Okay.
This is like at the bottom, closest to Kowloon Road area quarters. There you have Kenya Crescent.
That's right, here.
Yeah, Kenya Crescent, Lagos Circle and all that up. And then further up, you have Queen's Avenue, King's Avenue. Yeah. And then Malta Road, Gibraltar Crescent and all that.
Yeah, I think should be able to see the names of the roads, right? And just
Yeah.
give it a moment to sink in, right? The names that were given to
Yes.
these roads, right?
Right.
And what do you think is the reason why the roads have this kind of names?
Ah, perhaps with a little bit of their own influence, the British brought back some names for themselves to remember of home,
Well,
or
no, not
their
really. It's Sudan, right? It's Sudan. It
or their
can't be home.
colonies,
That's right.
or
I
their
think
colonies. Yeah, those
it
days they
is
have places all over the world.
correct.
The empire in Africa, they have Kenya, Tanganyika, Sudan, and all that. Rhodesia.
But very interesting way that the empire is brought very clear to you once you step
Yes,
inside the naval base.
places like Malta Road, even Gibraltar is there.
Mm. What do you call? How do you pronounce this? Beaulieu House, right?
There's in French, Beaulieu House.
Beaulieu House, right? It's still here
Yeah,
today, right?
it is. I think the
Mm.
government today has retained it as a heritage building.
That's right. Yeah. I think there's a restaurant inside now, right?
Used to have one restaurant there for a
Yeah.
long time,
Yeah.
even when I was there.
Mm. Mm. And of course, the Nelson House here.
Yeah,
Right.
the old old Nelson Road.
Mm.
There's another Nelson Road at Keppel,
At Keppel. Okay. Okay.
We call this here Old Nelson Road that leads to the Admiralty House on the top of the hill.
Yeah. Nelson is, of course, a big name in British naval history.
Lord,
So
Lord Nelson, yeah.
that's right. Canberra Road is still around today. Yeah. So
Yes,
if you come to Singapore, you find that Canberra Road is still there. We have actually a Canberra MRT station.
yeah, yes. And also another road called Canberra Link.
Canberra Link.
Yeah. It's not on this old map, it's in the new map. It's, I
You
think,
mean a new place? Okay.
yeah.
So we actually create a new Canberra Link.
Yeah.
Madras Road, Kowloon Road, are these roads still around?
All expunged,
All
all gone.
expunged. Huh?
Yeah.
So
All flattened and expunged.
if you go here today, what is there here?
Perhaps, just perhaps, I think Delhi Road still remains, I think.
So when you were still in Singapore, right, after the British left, what had become of these places?
Less cared for or tended to. Quite unlike when the British were there, they actually maintained very high standards of cleanliness and everything. When the British decided to pull out and handed over the assets to the Singapore government, and I think they've had a unit called the BECD, the Basis Economic Conversion Board, to look after all these facilities. And I think they must be scratching their head as to where to start with an area like that of nearly what? My guesstimate would be 25 square miles. The whole of the naval base.
Yeah.
Would be about 25 square miles. So I think they must be scratching their heads what to do and how to do the whole place. A bit of neglect after the British decided to pull out.
But you mean that when you left Singapore around the 90s, is that right?
Early 92, yes.
Early 92. So when was the last time you went inside this area?
I was still working there until 1985.
Correct. Okay.
Shipyard.
So those staff quarters were still there in 92?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I see. And the roads were still there?
Yes. Everything was still intact until they decided to rebuild a new town there.
Were there people living inside those staff quarters? Who?
Yes. The employees of Sembawang shipyard, some chose to remain in those blocks until while they were on waiting list for their respective flats.
So you still had an option to live there, huh?
Yes.
Okay. But your family moved out, right?
Shortly after that, in 75, we moved out. Yeah.
Right.
My father was from Kerala. He came to Malaya in 1932, 33, early 30s. And then he returned back to India during the war. And then he returned back to the hospital quarters in 1950s, 52 or something like that. I think in 1955, he brought the whole family over. My father worked in the dispensary, giving out medicines and so on. So I was born very much after that, in 1958. So we were very close as a family. Everyone was, we cook Deepawali stuff. We would join and share. And then the Christmas time, the Christians will be cooking nice stuff and come and share with us. There's so much of camaraderie there, closeness. Everybody knew everybody else, all the families as well. So that's why we still stuck together for so many years. We've kept in touch all these years. So it was that real closeness. Everybody knew everyone in the family, and that was, to me, was something very profound and lasting for us.
So my dad was, they called him special grade hospital assistant, and he was like in charge of the wards. So I think they have a 3 men's ward. So these were Asian men. So because he worked there, and we know Alfred's father, Viju's father, and a few more. All the 11 houses had all the men working in the hospital. They were all hospital assistants of different grades. So he was very strict. My dad was very strict. I remember all the attendants would come and complain to my mother, "Your husband scold me like this and like that." So, of course, as his children, we also felt the strictness. Very strict with education and how you dress up. Even if you want to go for a walk from the hospital quarters to Jalan Kadai, you got to wear socks and shoes. I suppose this is the colonial stuff that he followed. And he was quite well respected in the sense that if I'm going for a walk with him, we will never reach that place in time, or because along the way, a lot of people will stop him and talk to him. And he could speak quite a number of languages: Tamil, a bit of Malayalam, Malay, English. So you got people talking to him, and I'm the daughter listening to all this conversation. And many years later, after the British left, when I worked in town, Somerset area, for the PUB, I would meet his friends who come around and look at me and say, "Oh, you're Mr. Walter's daughter." So being the elders, I suppose I was around my father lots of time. And so he was in charge and very strict, and the doctors respected him. Unfortunately, he came down with pneumonia, and the doctors wanted to give him like a trip to Cameron Highlands to recover, but he was a very conscientious worker. He said, "No, I will work." And in the end, the pneumonia became double pneumonia, and he couldn't handle it. And finally, he died of heart failure. So that was my dad and his story. Now, coming to the mortuary, my house is the last house on the list, number 11, and it was facing the mortuary. So we always, in the evenings, my mother will ask me to close up the house. So I had to put my hand outside the window to pull the window shut, terrified of the mortuary. Now, all of us knew that if there's a light on in the mortuary, that means somebody has passed on. So one day, that time my father is still alive, and I must be about 10 or 9 or 10. And he decided to bring me along to the mortuary. Because when somebody dies, my father will go and see who died and whatnot. This after office hours is no issue for him. So I went along with him, but I stayed outside. I remember him going in and having a look and examining the person and talking to whoever was there. So we are quite accustomed to a lot of these hospital things when we were growing up. And then now the children in the hospital, we got along very well, whatever race or religion. We used to play a lot of games. Not only did we play the games that Alfred mentioned, we also played girls and boys. All the girls were tomboys anyway. We played bola hantam, climbing the trees, catching on trees. We would play kite flying. Every season or every school holiday, we had a different game that we will get ourselves involved. Badminton, even baseball. We learned how to play baseball. Somebody will come along and teach us, and we all will play. But our favorite game was rounders and badminton. We even played table tennis. Somebody brought table tennis.
No, we built a table tennis table. That was fantastic, actually.
So we can play a lot of games, in those days. Our time was spent studying. We all had the same timetable. If you're afternoon school, you will do morning. Morning, you will have your breakfast and you come out for a while and then go back, do your homework, have your food, and go to school. If you're a morning person, morning school, morning session, have your breakfast, go to school, come back from school, have your lunch, do your homework, come out at 4 p.m. and play until like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. until the mothers come out and shout for us. If it's school holidays, that's it. We are out there all the time. The daytime is our playtime. So that's how we spend our time. And I remember Mrs. Ponamalam. For Deepavali, she would invite all the children to come to her house to wash the house and also to help her make all the cookies. I remember I learned a lot of things by helping her, how they make the murukku, how they make the achimurukku, the rose flour murukkus, and so many dishes. And some of the dishes you can't find nowadays, these cookies that they used to make. Yeah, we have lots of things. And I think we are together because we played together. We also went through each parent, like my father died, Mr. Sundaram died, Mr. Veerappan died. So all this were while we were still growing up. So we are united in happiness and sadness. And also this group of my childhood friends are my comfort zone. I feel very comfortable with them. Yeah, so maybe pass baton to Alfred Dass.
My father also worked like Viju's father and Mary's father in the Naval Base hospital quarters. The hospital itself had 2 wards, a medical and a surgical ward, which Mary's father was in charge. Viju's father actually played a key role in the Naval Base Hospital in the sense that I think he was the union representative, apart from being in charge of the Naval Base Hospital dispensary. I believe he was also the union leader. And by being the union leader, he fought for quite a number of benefits for residents in the hospital. Yeah, coming back to my dad was in charge of the Naval Base Hospital TB ward. The TB ward was located at Block 87 along Canberra Road, where the Women's and the Children's Hospital was also located. And I remember, since my dad was working in the hospital, we family members had to go for medical checkup every 6 months. Apart from being in charge of the Naval Base Hospital TB ward, he was also posted to the Dockyard Medical Center. There was like a clinic there near the boathouse to cater for workers working in the dockyard. So he also spent some time working there. One interesting thing about the hospital, although it was only a very small group of people, they were pretty active, I would say. And one of the highlights of the Naval Base Hospital was organizing the Dockyard Medical Badminton Party annually. That tournament actually, I think, was covered by the newspapers, which meant that it gave it some credence. It probably was one of the highlights in the sports calendar in Naval Base, perhaps even maybe in Singapore, because during that time, facilities were rare. Not many places could afford to have badminton courts. Apart from that, I also remember, I think this was Viju's father's doing. He also invited the then world badminton champion. I think India during that time was a powerhouse in badminton. And there was a player called Nandu Nateka, I remember. And he came actually to grace one of the events. Apart from that, also the hospital had its own cricket team. And it comprised of staff working in the Naval Base Hospital. My father was very active sportsman. He played both cricket and badminton. And the team participated in the local league, playing against the other teams like the Singapore Recreation Club, the Singapore Cricket Club, Ceylon Sports Club, Indian associations. During that time, cricket, I think, was very popular. And it was a sport that was introduced by the British. Even companies also like Shell had their own cricket team. So, yeah, and as Mary mentioned, people there have a lot of sense of sharing and sense of bonding. And I remember my father, after the British pulled out, he stayed with a Chinese neighbor. We used to call the lady Aso. And my father treated her husband and cured him. I would say he cured him. Anyway, he was cured from TB. And she was very, very grateful for it. And I remember when I used to go and visit my parents during the 80s, she would always, when I bring my kids, she would always make something and bring it to the children. It was a way of, I think, expressing her gratitude. She not only did it for my dad's children, but also for his grandchildren. And my mom actually didn't want to leave the JTC flats, primarily because of our neighbor. So that's just to give you a sense of bonding that the people had in Naval Base. And apart from that, also in living in Naval Base hospital quarters, during that time, one of the biggest challenges for most families was putting food on the table. And well, a lot of us, ate actually a really half stomach. It was like once a week, a meat curry, once a week, a fish curry, once a week, a vegetarian curry. And I still remember, when Mom used to cook, she would cut the meat and tell us, hey, each of you are only 5 pieces of meat. Huh? Anyway, it's a diet that now people are advocating that we should go back to. Apart from that, also, our neighbors were Hindus. So with respect to them, Mom never cooked beef. So one of the meats that I grew up never having an acquired taste for is beef. So likewise, our Chinese neighbors on the outside would cook dishes and share with them. So there was a lot of sharing and bonding during that generation. And I also wish to add this bonding continued for many, many, many years. Like, for example, on Sunday, I attended Viju's sister's daughter's wedding. So, the bonds of childhood really continue to the next generation, which is something wonderful and something I don't see, I may be wrong, taking place today.
Did you ever go inside the naval base or one of these bases?
Oh, I used to go there. I used to go down very often because I got many friends and relatives who are living in naval base.
Mm.
Those days, in naval base, you have to go in, somebody must sponsor you in. You just can't walk in. Somebody is living there. They have to come to the gate and sponsor you in. And I think, yeah, only the sponsorship only valid for one day. You have to leave by midnight. No, you want to stay overnight, you have to get special permission. And in those days, they used to have a bus service inside naval base. Catering the people at naval base. There was also
When you go inside the naval base, where specifically would you go?
I used to go to Block 4, Block 5, Block 9. These are places where my father's friends and relatives live. So those I still remember those quarters. Made from concrete.
That's right.
True story.
How many story?
True story. Ground floor and first floor. Wow. Ground floor and first floor.
This is Canberra Road?
This is Canberra, yeah, Canberra Road. Yeah. Normally in Canberra Road, yeah. Block. I think 4, 5, all along Canberra Road. Yes, right.
These were the naval base quarters
Naval
for the
base,
Asians,
yes.
right?
Yes, Asians. And most of the Asians who used to work there, most of the clerks, some of them they used to work in the dockyard, fitters and welders and drivers, and most of them are people like that. And there are also a few clerks also.
Yeah. I mean, another common occupation of the Malayalis was the technical trade. They are very good.
Yes,
technical skills, fitters.
Yes. Fitters are welders. Yeah, correct.
When you went inside the naval base, did it feel like it's not Singapore? It's like a
no, exactly. Yeah. It's the environment is completely different. No, there was a lot of not so many Chinese there, a lot of Indians there. More of like we say, bit of an Indian environment. Most of the people who are living in those blocks are mostly Indians. A lot of they're Chinese too, but I think there are more Indians than Chinese in naval base in those days. But the Chinese people, they're living outside. They live in Sembawang. Most of them don't stay in the blocks. They stay outside.
I think also the whole landscape is different, right?
They're different, yeah, exactly different. No, not what you used to. What you want to in Sembawang, what in naval base in Italy, different. The structure is completely different. Because what you see outside and what you see inside is different. Most of them work in the HMS Tokyo. This is where the ships come alongside. So all of them are working as welders and fitters and drivers and and most of the people, they live in the quarters in naval base. They don't live outside. Most of them live inside the quarters. And there was a hospital there. Then there's a cinemas there. I think there's also a police station there. Yeah, there's a police station. And a lot of Indian mess. People. Most of the people who live there. Especially they are bachelors. So they don't have their family here. So there are a lot of messes. People go there. They have their breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have there. So payday they make payments. Oh, if it's a bachelor, they don't most of them don't cook and eat themselves. They used to go to these shops. There are a lot of shops there catering for this Indians in the Indian shops.
Do you feel it's a pity that these staff quarters were demolished?
Yeah, at least, but the black and white bungalows, they keep it
Yeah.
A lot of black and white bungalows. These are very huge bungalows. I been in there a few times because I was asked to teach one of the British guy's son. Because he saw me playing at the Dockyard Club in the dinner and dance. They come and ask me, "Can you teach my son?" I said, "Sure, of course." So it was the fee was $30. So I said, "Why not?" $30 is my pay is only about $100. $30 is quite a big sum, right?
Yes.
So not bad lah. They okay lah. $30 about once a week or something like that. So why not? So I've been in there, the bungalows, and I see how big it is. And last time when the British were here, in fact, a lot of the local girls work there as ama. They call it ama, no? Actually, like what we have domestic helper now, lah.
Yeah.
So a lot of local girls work for these British families. as domestic helpers. But last time they call it ama. So then my mom also ever worked there. And I also go there. And then this British, they're quite okay. They work for them. That's why nowadays, don't let your daughters or what go foreign place and work as maids. One time our late GM were mentioned. Yeah. So, but last time they were actually working, but for the British families. Back for us, I live from Atap House. Atap House in Sembawang, I told you. Atap House, quarters, HDB, landed. And now, because already, so many stories to climb. So now we are living in a condo where single level. Then you don't have to access so much and too much to take care of. So this is the journey that we've been through from Atap House. So you asked me about Atap House. I also can tell you Atap how the condition like, living well water to bathe, and then study candlelight and kerosene light, no electricity last time. Yeah. And then no tap water, and then you got to bring water from the well, then go and bath. You go and bathe, you go in bathroom, you go to well. Those were younger days, they're quite interesting, with trees all around you. And in those days, you really have to be, it's very cold. Unlike nowadays, the weather is very hot. At night, it's very cold. In the kampong area there, there are trees around you. So it's very cold. You really got to wear warm clothing to sleep, something like that.
Now we need aircon to sleep already.
That's right.